Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, everyone. It is great to be with you on this Friday. It is a free form Friday, or as some of you are trying to rename it, Flourishing Friday. Must admit, I do kind of like the sound of that, so I don't know. We'll see if the branding sticks. Anyway, it's good to see you all. We got Andrew and Ron, or Teresa rather, over on Facebook. Ron is at the dentist. I'm sorry. My condolences. I don't like going to the dentist. Good to see the rest of you. Terry's on here and sauna. That's good news. Congratulations. How exciting about that. Good to see you all. So we got a lot to talk about today. And Teresa says, looks like there is good news for elections in the future. Yeah, so have you been praying? Let's just quickly recap our 3 prayer requests. One of the requests has been that the Lord would take down the Iran regime, the tyrannical government there, and all of the implications of that worldwide. I haven't seen much action on that this week. Have any of you? Have I missed anything? Seems like that's been fairly quiet. Doesn't mean nothing is going on, and certainly if the King of the universe is hearing our prayers and acting in that area, in that nation, then we can be sure there are things going on. So keep praying, keep asking. We've been asking for the fraud in Minnesota to be completely exposed and for evildoers to be brought to justice. And again, I'm not aware of much movement on that publicly this week, but that does not mean there's not something going on. And there's been some other indications that, fraud in various places is being exposed. And I think it's all, one domino could crush a lot of them. So keep praying for that. The one, and this is probably what Teresa is referring to, the one request that seemed to have some movement is the SAVE Act, the election here in the U.S., the election security and fairness and so on. The SAVE Act passed the House. And I think I saw earlier this morning that John Fetterman, a Democrat, has agreed to sign it in the Senate, which would bring the number to 50, and that would make J.D. Vance the tiebreaker. So if that is true, then it looks like the Senate is poised to pass the SAVE Act. And at least as it's been portrayed, that would require voter ID, proof of citizenship to register to vote, and that could be a major blow to the election insecurities and the alleged fraud in various elections. So it seems like that would be an answer to prayer. And I qualified. I say seems like because then this will lead into what we're going to talk about a little bit later. I'm still always somewhat critical, skeptical of how things were portrayed. And I'm certainly skeptical of our U.S. Congress and the bills that they write and the things that are included or not included. But all that considered, my hope is not in the government. My hope is in the Lord Jesus. And so I'm asking in faith that he will bring this about. So I hope that happens. So keep praying. How great that would be if we get the SAVE Act passed. So just wanted to review that and give thanks to the Lord for the House and for what appears to be going on in the Senate. Also, last week, just as a quick recap, we talked about how to thrive personally, how to make a difference in our own lives and be more useful, get more things done. And I'm just curious, anybody take any of that we talked about? We discussed, choosing a goal and envisioning what change you want to make and what it would look like if you do. We talked about planning, figure out the best way to get there, and then you just got to decide to do it and then act. And then we discussed at length the importance of talking to yourself rather than listening to yourself. And the point being, we have all these voices in our heads that tell us we can't do it, we won't do it, it's not going to work out right, too many obstacles to overcome, so on. And we have to talk to ourselves and say, no, I can do this. I can eat these things and not those things in order to lose fat. I can get to the gym 3 days a week to work out. I can go on walks. I can learn the guitar. I can take my wife on more dates. I can figure out how to build more wealth. I can do it, right? So if you have done anything, I'd love to hear about it. I know Tom Rayborn posted publicly on the video comments, I think, that he, based on some conversations we had had privately a year or so ago, he has got into day trading and has been successful at that. And so for Tom, you and your wife, who will probably have dinner with Doug tonight, as you you say you do, which I think is fun. Congratulations, well done. Thanks for sharing that, and may the Lord bless that. So if you're moving forward in anything based on what we've talked about, I would love to hear more about it. So a couple things today. Number one, I want to talk a little bit about AI, Sauna's favorite subject. She is an expert, I'm sure by now. Have you seen? There's just been a lot. There's always a lot, but there's a lot of AI talk around. I don't know how many of you are on social media, especially X. I'm not really on Facebook much. I know there's at least a meme that, what everything I'm saying on X will be on Facebook next week or so, because it's kind of behind the times. But AI, there was an article that went around that I think it was entitled "Something Big is Happening," something like that anyway. And it was a software developer who was walking through the impact he is seeing that AI is already having and what's going to have. And he's trying to not really scare people, but raise the urgency among everyone. He says, I'm writing for my sister and my mom, people who are not in the technical field, and trying to communicate for everyday folks what's going to happen with AI, why it should matter, and that everyone needs to be investigating it and learning how to use it. And I generally think that is wise. Now, I'm not convinced that the timeline is going to be as quick as he and Elon Musk and others think. I don't know. Obviously, nobody knows. But I do know that human nature and governments can't, the drag on acceleration can be pretty heavy because of just the masses and the government, although the Trump administration is very pro AI and doing everything it can to make sure that the U.S. leads in it. Still, this ship just doesn't go too fast. So anyway, it doesn't cause worry in me, but I do think if you haven't done some investigating into AI, you probably should, especially if you are in any kind of knowledge business. I have a friend who is considering getting his CPA and adding accounting education to his resume, so to speak. And I've talked to him. I don't know if that's a good idea. I don't know if that's going to be profitable. I think you can learn accounting with AI currently, Grok or Gemini or whatever, Anthropic, although that seems like their expertise is more coding, Claude. But you can learn, and then as far as the people doing the accounting, I don't know if it's going to be so many people in the future, but AI. So it's just worth investigating if you want to. Now, I did a little digging with Grok yesterday, and was asking, here's kind of my life. Here are the things that I do. How can AI help me? And in particular, how could OpenClaw help me? I'm just curious, give me a thumbs up or some indication if you know what OpenClaw is. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago fairly quickly, and it may not have stuck. It was originally called Claude Code or something, and it was too close to, it was Clawbot. I forget. It had the word claw, CLAW in it, and that was too close to Claude, Anthropic's code generating AI. And so they changed it to Moltbot, I think. And then they settled on the title, the name OpenClaw. Sana says only from what you said last week. Okay, so Andrew says no. Anybody else? Yes or no? So it's an open source AI that you can load on your own computer, and you can set it up. You can have it interview you and tell it all about yourself. And then depending on how much freedom you give it, how much permission you give it, it can act on your behalf. It's an agentic, it's an agent. They call it agentic AI. It can, if you gave it, for instance, as I understand it, I haven't used it, but as I understand it, if you gave it the right access to your passwords and payment, and like Amazon, it could order things for you. And the thing is, it is not simply responsive. Like with Grok, I have to go in and ask it for things for it to do anything. This one, if you were to set it up and say, I want you to explore, look at my calendar and make sure that my wardrobe is appropriate for what's coming up. And if it sees that you have a formal interview coming up next week, it could take the initiative and just go buy, a suit for you, or buy, I don't know, some accessory for you or whatever. Maybe, as a husband, it sees Valentine's Day is coming up, and it could, if you gave it access, could research your wife, research you, and go and buy a Valentine's gift for your wife without you doing anything. So I've been from afar kind of keeping an eye on that. I have a friend who uses it, and I'm talking to him regularly to see, what it's benefiting. But so I asked Grok, how would OpenClaw help me? So we dialogued back and forth about that a little bit. So this morning, I remembered another video that I saw yesterday. There's a homeschool mom, and so Sana, this might, maybe you saw this, although I don't get the idea you're on social media much. A homeschool mom who set up OpenClaw on her own computers and described how it helped her with homeschooling. So what I want to do here for a moment is tie together two things. Okay. I want to show you the question that I asked Grok, just for those of you who aren't using ChatGPT or Grok or any of the others, just to show you the kind of thing it can help you with. I'm always looking to be more efficient, and Google search was great for its time, but now why am I getting a thumbs down? What did I say? The AI capabilities is just so much different and better. All right, so here's what I asked Grok this morning. So it says, okay, let me test something. Yesterday, I saw a video on X of a homeschool mom using OpenClaw to watch videos of her teaching. Okay, so I don't remember the woman's name. I didn't even watch the whole video, I don't think, but I saw enough to kind of say, oh, that's really cool what she's doing there. So this morning, I asked Grok, I saw this video of a homeschool mom using OpenClaw to watch videos of her teaching. OpenClaw created an outline of the lessons, suggestions for follow-up, ideas for future lessons, etc. Can you find that video and summarize the main benefit the mom derived from OpenClaw? Okay, so I couldn't remember a lot of details about it. and I didn't want to go looking for it, and I didn't necessarily even want to watch the video again. So I asked Grok, can you go find the video just based on my description? It's a homeschool mom who used OpenClaw in homeschooling for these things. Can you find it and summarize the main benefit that she derived from OpenClaw? Now, do you see just, I'm sure you can figure out already that Grok did all that, and it was great. Can you see the benefit of that? Just as far as efficiency goes. Would it take that long to go search and find the video again? Maybe not. X has a pretty good search engine, but at least for somebody like me, I really don't want to go watch the video again. I saw enough to get the general idea. I wanted Grok to outline the benefits for me. Side note, one of the things I was doing yesterday as I was interacting with Grok about how OpenClaw might be beneficial to me and what I spend my time doing, one of the suggestions that Grok had for me is that I could have OpenClaw regularly transcribe my live streams and write blog posts or articles here for X, or posts for X and Facebook and so on. And what's fascinating is I didn't tell Grok to go look. It went and read the transcripts from the last few live streams this week on Matthew 24 and offered suggestions. Now, did you catch that? All I said was, how can AI like OpenClaw help me in what I do every day? And I said, I do live stream and I do this and I do some other things. I didn't tell it to go search my live stream. It just did it. And then came back with some article titles and a summary of articles I could write based on the Olivet Discourse in Matthew 24 that I was teaching on. And it clearly read the transcripts of the videos because it talked about AD 70 and how these were fulfilled and the tribulation that's being described there in Matthew 24 leading up to 70 AD. That was pretty amazing to me. Terry says, I use Grok all the time. It's a great tool. I learned about Grok on your live streams. Thanks. Excellent. Randy says, yes, please outline your transcripts. Yeah, so that would be helpful to you. I mean, Grok strongly encouraged me to make posts and things and be more active on X with summaries and posts. And I've done some of the shorts, like YouTube shorts, and I know a few of you have recommended that. I go back and forth on whether or not I want to be more active on X and YouTube shorts and that kind of thing. If you strongly urge it, I will give it consideration. It would be easy enough for Grok to summarize a lesson and post that later in the day or next week or whatever. So I'm open to it. If I get enough feedback, I'll give it some thought. But on the other hand, I don't want to just flood the airways. Terry says, it's amazing how much info it knows about me, which personalizes the answers. Yeah, it's always learning, and it's only just begun, actually. All right, well, that's a side note. So I just found that interesting that it went and did it for me as I was asking it. So, all right, I asked about this woman, this homeschool mom, and here's what it said. Grok says, yes, I found the exact video you saw. It's a 1:44 clip posted yesterday by homeschool mom Jessie Gennett, and then puts her handle here, her what do you call that? I can't think of what it's called, to get to her in her ongoing OpenClaw Meets Homeschool series. And there's a link here that I could click on to get there. She has 4 separate OpenClaw agents running for different homeschool tasks. This one is specifically about how to actually use all the educational crap you bought. That's funny. What the video shows. Jessie demonstrates feeding a YouTube video, a teaching lesson video in context. It appears to be one of her own recorded lessons or a curriculum video she uses into her OpenClaw agent. OpenClaw, so this This is not something that she had to give it line by line instructions for. That's the thing here. OpenClaw knows what she would want to accomplish with this. So she puts the video, and you do this with a messaging app. So like with this particular one, OpenClaw, you set it up so if you use Signal or iMessage, I think it will work with, or WhatsApp or whatever, or Telegram, I think is a popular one. You interact with your agent via text, just like you would with another person. So she would take, let's say she uses the Signal app. She would take the YouTube video link, enter it, send a message to her agent and say, hey, summarize this or transcribe it, make it useful for my homeschooling or something along those lines. And then it would just go and do it. And then, okay, so it transcribes the video, extracts a clean, structured outline of the lesson, identifies key concepts and skills, suggests follow-up activities and questions, generates ideas for future lessons that build on it, adds the material to her master inventory with tags, context, difficult level, and recommended placement in her kids' schedules. Now, this is all, it's like having an assistant who knows you. And, think of a person. If you have a person that just lived with you and observed all that you're doing, knows what you're about, pays attention to your homeschooling, and, let's say her name is, I don't know, Jane. Hey, Jane, watch this video and give me ideas on how to improve my homeschooling from it. And then she comes back with, here's a clean, structured outline. Here are the key things you taught in that video. Here's what I would recommend as follow-up activities. Here's some future lessons. And then I have created this master inventory of all of your homeschool lessons. And I've tagged it and I've put context around all of it and summarized what I think is the difficulty level and made suggestions on where to go with your children's schedule learning all of this. Right? So all you do is say, hey, Jane, give me some ideas based on this video of how I can, apply this to homeschooling. And then she comes back several hours later with this, but in this case, OpenClaw comes back in, minutes with all of this. She then shows how the agent can automatically slot it into a weekly plan, flag related resources she already owns, and even suggest simple adaptations for different age and ability levels. And then so Grok summarized the main benefit the mom derived in her own words. The biggest win she highlights is turning a huge pile of unused, overwhelming educational materials, books, videos, printables, into actually usable, organized lessons without her having to watch, read, or manually organize everything herself. You know what that made me think of? It made me think, would there be any value if I set this up and had it read every video I've done, every live stream I've done, all the way back to the first one on Ecclesiastes, and create a chat bot just based on my live streams and make it so that people could interact and ask questions. I get questions all the time about things, right? I wonder if how interesting it would be and if it'd be useful to have a chat bot for anyone who, who wants to understand where I'm coming from, my perspective on some of these things, or review. I think you said, I get this kind of question. I think you said in one series one time this or that. To have an AI that you could actually interact with, shoot, I would do it myself. What did I say? What did I say about this back then? Or compare what you've heard me say about Isaiah in the Matthew series versus what I said in the Isaiah series. Wouldn't that be interesting? That's what I was thinking as I was listening to this. It goes through this huge pile of unused and educational materials. That's what AI can do, and pull out all of these things. She literally literally says she's been buying curriculum for years, never had time to integrate it all. OpenClaw now does the watch plus summarize plus plan work for her. Let me say it again. OpenClaw now does the watch, summarize, plan work for her, so she can finally use what she already owns instead of constantly buying more and defaulting to screens. Other moms in her replies echo the same benefit. Homeschool parents have so many materials but zero time to organize, and so on. All right, well, I'll leave that there for now, but just a practical example. Many of you, maybe most of you, are not in the tech world. I don't know. Maybe more of you are. But AI is going to revolutionize everything, and it's a great tool. And I don't know. I thought I would throw that out in something that's sort of a practical use. Not all of you are homeschool moms, but to give you an idea of the kind of thing it can do that's not just writing code for software and that kind of thing. So Terry, you say you use it all the time. Do you use it mostly for like research and a much better search than say Google, or do you use it for other applications? How about the rest of you? Does anybody use AI, whether it's ChatGPT or Copilot or any of the others? Do any of you use them regularly? And if so, I'd be curious as to what you use it for besides just search. And that's no small thing. I joke all the time about my research team, my research staff, which is Grok. It's amazing how much time that alone saves me. And the fact that it has read everything, that's been published basically. But I'm curious if anybody uses it for other things. Terry says, ooh, that would be incredible. Yeah, you think? Sona says, it would be interesting to see how your views have changed over time. Yeah, because we're always learning, right? And the more I study the New Testament use of the Old Testament, and we continue to grow in our understanding of things, it does tweak some and alter some. So anyway, I encourage you, dig into AI a little bit. All right, well, let's change gears completely, because I do want to at least give some thought to all the Epstein stuff going on. Asana says, I asked it about health. And say, yeah, me too. In fact, I could give you a couple examples of we actually disregarded instruction by a doctor because of Grok, and I think we made the right choice. Anyway, I'll say that for another time. GJR says, use it daily. Been in IT 40 plus years. You for both work and personal research. Excellent. Yeah. I bet you see benefits that the non-IT person doesn't. Randy says, I am motivated to get into using this. Yeah, it's just going to be useful for everything. So many great things. And as agents become more usable, right? Like right now, the what's the word? The friction for like OpenClaw is installation and then security. Don't just install it if you don't know what you're doing. It can get access to things you don't want to have access to and ruin your life. So don't do it if you don't know what you're doing. But that'll all change over time. Terry says, everything all day long, repairing my truck. There you go. Bible, rewriting a paragraph. Yeah, very good. Oh, that reminds me. Have you all used Typeless? You should look into Typeless. It's an app. It works on your computer and your phones and tablets. It's AI that you talk to it, kind of like doing voice text, but it on real time, it improves what you say. I use it all the time. Anyway, you should look it up. Maybe I'll talk more about it next week. All right. So back to Epstein. There's a lot of, in my opinion, really bad thinking, poor thinking, or lack of thinking going on with all the Epstein stuff. So I just want to tell you how I'm thinking through it, and maybe this will help you. And anyway, this is about Epstein secondarily, really, but it's maybe primarily about making sure that we are careful and nuanced in our thinking. Does that make sense? So I'm not so much intending to comment on the Epstein files and all of that per se, but we need to always be careful in our thinking. And as I tell you all the time, careful in who we believe and recognize incentives and all that. So there are a lot of folks on the right, and certainly folks on the left, who are claiming this is a big cover-up, and that the reason the Trump administration and Bondi they were so slow in releasing all these things is because they are hiding things and so on, and that this is just dynamite. The fuse is lit and it's about ready to explode, or that kind of thing. And then Trump comes along and says, no, it's just a big distraction rather from, all that he's trying to accomplish in his administration and all that. So here's how I'm kind of thinking through it. Think about incentives. Does President Trump have any incentives to slow roll this or suppress it? I don't see it. So far, and even the left has largely confirmed this, that there's nothing incriminating about Trump in the Epstein files. In fact, the case could be made. There's quite a bit of exoneration of him. So if there's nothing that would incriminate him, his legacy appears to be threatened, as so many people are making a big deal of this. He's not naive to that, I'm sure. I guess what I'm saying is, at least on his end, it seems like he is fully confident that the end of all of this, nothing massive against him or his administration is going to be revealed, that this will eventually fade into the background and it won't be a mark against him over time. I can't read his mind, but that's certainly the kind of thing he's been saying, that this is just a distraction and it's a Democrat hoax and that kind of thing. If he's wrong or lying, this is the biggest risk he's ever taken, in my opinion. And that's not the kind of person he is. He's not that foolish. Do you see what I mean? If he's wrong or if he's lying, if there is there, if this is as big as some are claiming, then it's going to take down so many people in government and foreign governments and on and on and on and on. I can't believe he is so naive to that he wouldn't deal with it head on. Now, on the right, there are those claiming he's been playing 4D chess with this, that he and Elon conspired together to deny this, to make it front and center, and Trump kept downplaying it so that the Democrats would force him to reveal it, and that was all part of his wonderful plan. And now they're looking bad and so on. No way. That I think is that's what some on the right, or just as I think those on the left are looking for something desperately to crush him with. I think some on the right just confirmation bias. It just doesn't. There's no way, in my opinion, that this was a great ploy to get it. I'm taking Trump at his word that he wanted this to just fade in the background and move forward with his plans, not because they had any dirt on him, but just because he wanted to keep the focus on what he's accomplishing. That makes the most sense to me. So I don't see the incentives if there's if there's real, if what the worst case scenario is true, Trump has all the incentive in the world to prosecute, to open it all up and chase them because it would bring down many who are against him, frankly. It just doesn't make any sense that he has any incentive unless he's convinced there's really no there there. So that's number one. Same kind of thing I would say with Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. People are accusing her of cover up. What's the incentive for her to cover it up? I don't see it. She is going to look like one of the biggest fools or fraudsters of all time if there's there and she is not seeking to prosecute and get it all out and so on. I just don't see it. Now, I could be proven wrong, but I just don't see what her incentive would be not to prosecute. Again, it seems like most of the people who would be implicated would be good for Trump and the administration. So if there was evidence of wrongdoing to bring down many on the left and so on, why would she not pursue that with everything she has? So I'm just trying to think through, why would she cover up? What else is going on? Third thing, Sana says we'll probably never fully find out everything. I agree. Terry says if there was anything there to hurt Trump, Biden would have found it. Yeah, I think it's pretty much universally, well, not universally, but largely been established there's nothing there to hurt him. And I agree. It would have come out a long time ago. So here's the thing. We talked about this a little bit before, but it's so important, I think, as Christians for us to make sure we keep this in mind. Accusation is not proof of anything. Here's the question I keep asking about this. We have apparently many accusers and many statements by accusers. But I haven't seen anything that's even close to proof of crimes. Now, Nancy Mace is a woman who I believe was abused, molested, raped, something, and I don't remember exactly the details. And she is going pretty hard at this because it has personal meaning for her. And she has apparently gone to see the unredacted documents. Lauren Boebert, a Colorado rep, I think she's a rep. She's a rep, isn't she? She has done that, and she came out just disgusted. I saw a little clip of her talking about how disgusting what she saw and read was, and she's upset with the redactions, with the names that are hidden and that kind of thing. And you hear all of these people throwing out all the time the corruption, the wickedness, the evil, all of these people who are involved, whether it's higher ups in the British royal family or other billionaires, and on and on and on. And they act like they speak as if all of these people are guilty of heinous crimes. I haven't seen any evidence. I've heard reasons why we haven't seen any evidence, but if there's evidence, that's what we need. That's how our legal system is built. Here's the crime. Here's the evidence of the crime. And the fact that there are numerous accusers doesn't prove anything. People like Thomas Massey, which I'll talk more about him in a minute, and these ladies Boebert and Mace and others continue to talk about the victims, the victims, the victims. I don't know if they were victims. And I would dare say you don't either. Meaning, thus far, it doesn't appear to have been proven that there was criminal activity with underage girls. There are pictures and videos of young women. Is it proven how old they were? And is there any in the documentation, in the videos and so on, of actual crimes? I haven't seen any of it. When our politicians talk about the victims, Massey has said that again and again and again about the victims, the victims, the victims. There is an assumption there. The assumption is they are victims of crimes. And so far as I've looked into it, there appears to be some evidence of a lot of wickedness, but that's not the same thing as crimes. For example, if some of these women were, say, 18, 19, 20 years old, and they participated in all of the things that, we have heard was going on at Epstein Island and so on, if they were over 18, it's wicked, but it's not criminal. And the assumption of our laws is an 18-year-old woman is capable of deciding she wants to participate in that wickedness. And it's not a crime for men 40 years older than her to participate with her. You see what I'm getting at? So if they are victims, there must be evidence that a crime was committed. And it seems to me like if Bondi had evidence of crimes, then there would be prosecutions underway and grand juries and so on. We just have to be careful of assumptive language. Claiming someone's a victim, or 20 women accuse Epstein and others of doing these things, does not prove he did any of it. This is why the biblical principle is 2 to 3 witnesses, not 2 to 3 accusers. You see the difference? Witnesses say, yes, we both saw him do that to her. We both saw that same event, not I saw him do it. Well, I saw him do it too to somebody else. Those are accusations, not witnesses. And it doesn't matter how many people come forward and say, he did this to me when I was 15. That's not proof. Now, I'm not trying to defend. Please do not hear me defend any of it. I'm persuaded there was a lot of wickedness going on in his life. Can I prove that? No. And I don't have to prove it. I'm just saying there's enough smoke to make you at least say maybe there's some fire. But that kind of wickedness is not the same thing as crimes. If there are no crimes that can be proven, then Trump is right. This is all a distraction. You see the difference? There's no point in pointing out all of the wickedness that someone participated in if it wasn't illegal, because the man who was driving it all is dead. And you ask, well, what about all these celebrities and influential people who participated in it? You can say it is wicked, corrupt, heinous, evil, and knowing they're going to stand before the ultimate judge someday, give an account for all that. But as far as our government's concerned, if it's not illegal, it's none of their business. And I haven't seen any proof. And the last thing I'll say in this, and I'll check in some of your comments here. Alan Dershowitz, I've mentioned him before. He was Epstein's attorney many years ago when some of these charges first came up. He has claimed to have seen all of the evidence and that there's nothing that hasn't already been shown that would be helpful. And if there was more there would have been incentives for him to know it and use it in Epstein's defense. And he was accused by one of the victims. Dershowitz was accused by one of the victims, and he basically argued, as I'm stating to you, that you have no evidence, and the quote victim accuser eventually changed her testimony that wasn't Dershowitz. I don't mean this to sound cruel. If the victims, the accusers, are true victims, right? If there were crimes committed against them, if they were trafficked, if they were involved in these things when they were under 18, then I hope there's evidence. I hope that is exposed, and I hope that anybody who participated with them is brought to severe justice and the worst punishment that we can legally put upon them. I hope that's true if they are true victims. If they were over 18, if there were no laws broken, then I don't want these alleged victims to get anything because they participated in the wickedness themselves, and according to the law, they were just doing things of their free volition. Now, there may be aspects of this that I don't know. Well, of course there are, or that I could know that I don't know. All I'm saying is I'm trying to help us all to think carefully because there's so much rhetoric going on about there, and it's just dominating the airwaves in so many ways. Kind of like the Nancy Guthrie thing. I don't understand what's going on there, but it was very strange. They interrupted the Olympics the other night with 10 minutes of telling us we don't know anything. There's something amiss about that whole thing, it seems to me. But anyway, be careful in who you listen to and the assumptions that you make, and question assumptions in others. Does that make sense? Are you at least seeing the nuance of thinking I'm trying to communicate? And especially, I would say, the victim accuser idea. No one claiming to a victim in any circumstance, no one claiming to be a victim is evidence of a crime. If my daughter came to me and said some guy had molested her, objectively, if there is no evidence, her claim is not evidence. And the reason I bring up, my daughter, because that, of course, I can't imagine, and I would be searching far and wide to find evidence because I would believe my daughter. But in a court of law, her testimony that man did that to me is not proof. As hard as that would be, if that were the only evidence was her testimony, legally I would have to say if the man has an alibi or just says, you can't prove this and there is no proof, one accuser's evidence is not evidence. Does that make sense? Are you all tracking? Teresa says the hope is there will be justice to all the people involved. Agreed. What I'm warning against is assuming that what we're hearing is true. It's so hard to determine what is true. Yeah, innocent until proven guilty, unless we're talking about the government. Yeah, and then it's the other way around. I would agree with that. Terry says, according to Grok, the release of the files have not resulted in any convictions. Yeah. So last thing I'll say about Thomas Massie, and I'm not going to make a big deal of this, but I think that there was a time when I appreciated him. That time has come to an end. I do think it is a worthwhile question. Why has he not pushed this before? The timing seems suspect. Now, I don't know his motives, but the timing makes me question his motives. And again, he is one who keeps just assuming. For a guy that claims to hold so carefully to the Constitution, for instance, and he claims to be a clear thinker, he is assuming the victimhood of the victims. And to my knowledge, that has not been established. And he talks about he's going to start naming names, and he wants justice for the victims. But the victims have not been vindicated in a court of law that I'm aware of. In which case, to say they are victims is to assume the guilt of some other parties, and Massey should know better than that. So I question his motives. I'm not sure yet what he's after, but it's a hard case in the opinion of Doug, which is irrelevant. But as I think through this, it is hard to be convinced, based on what I'm hearing from him, of his motive being primarily for the victims. So again, anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Hope that's helpful. Again, not to persuade you of really anything other than to be careful how you think, and be careful who you listen to, and realize there's a lot of different agendas from the people in power and in the public eye and on social media, and even people that you think are trustworthy. Be slow in coming to conclusions. That's the counsel. Think through. Randy says, separate note, I've been listening to fiction books about Jewish war by Ward Sanford. It really gives good background to the corrupt Jewish leaders and Roman army. Easier read than Josephus. Okay, cool. I'm not familiar with that book. Thanks for highlighting that. All right, friends. It's late, I'm going to call it. We will see you back here on Monday to continue on in Matthew. Have a great weekend. Grace and peace to you.